Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Conversations That Matter Most. My name is Claudette Chenevert, and I'm known as the Stepmom Coach. And I'm here today with my wonderful, amazing co host, Sharona. Hi, Sharona.
Hi, Claudette. Hi, everybody. Um, Glad to be here with you, Claudette, and everybody else. And let's see what trouble we can cause today.
Definitely. So today we're going to talk about metaphors, and Sharona just used some great metaphors as we just started troubles we're going to be causing today. Is that an example of what we're going to expect?
Exactly.
So I'm just going to do a few things here to make sure that everything goes well. Okay, perfect. So one of the things that Sharona and I had talked about earlier this week, we were talking about metaphors and its impact. And, we all see the world differently depending on the words we use. And and there's a lot of things going on. So we wanted to talk about metaphors. But before we go into talking about metaphors and going deeper into this, I want to share a little bit more about who we are in case this is the first time you're joining us live. Well, thank you for being here. And if you are a recurring person that keeps that's seen our episodes, thank you for being there. And maybe just share a little bit about who we are and why we started this. So I want Sharona to maybe talk a little bit about what it is you're doing because we don't have your little tag in the bottom there. So just share with us what is it that you do, Sharona, and your amazing gifts that you have.
oh, okay. So, one of my amazing gifts I don't have is how to get technology to work for me because my little name won't come up. It keeps saying I'm an invalid client. Okay, so I don't exist. Wow. Um, but I do because I am talking to all of yous. Yes, I said all of yous. Um, I am Sharona, and I am known as the Midlife Women Dancing with Change specialist. I specialize in transition and transformation with midlife women who may be struggling or feeling lost or feeling like, what the heck is going on? And we go through a process. Um, Usually with an entourage because I like to work in groups, going from just surviving to thriving wholeheartedly in body, mind, and spirit. And and it's interesting because right now we're in the middle of big changes globally, uh, and then also personally within ourselves. So how to balance all that and how to find harmony within ourselves with the chaos going on around us. So that's basically what I do, who I be, um, and that's it. How about you, Claudette? What do you bring to the table? Oh, another.
Oh, another metaphor. What am I bringing to the table? So, what I bring to the table is knowledge and expertise around being a stepmom. And so I work with stepmoms and helping them create and build stronger and healthier step families, one step at a time. And I do that by sharing with you strategies and tips and perspectives in what it means to be a stepmom, how to be a good stepmom, and ditch those unrealistic expectations that we sometimes have. And the other thing that I bring to the table is a lot of wisdom and um, wisdom about what it means to, raise someone else's kids. And it's not always easy. And part of, what Sharona and I do here is share some of our wisdom and ideas around different topics, whether it's around grief, anger, challenges, holidays, um, change. So we have a wide variety of topics that we shared in our segments of Conversations That Matter Most. And so part of why we started this is because we wanted to share with you some of the topics that we thought were important to discuss. And our goal here isn't necessarily to have you agree or disagree with us, but at least have it be a part of a conversation or a jumpstart to a conversation so that you can open the dialogue into understanding one another better. And when Sharona and I talking about metaphors and their impact on our lives, one of the things that Sharona said, she says, well, I don't, there's things I believe in and I don't. And I said, that's perfect. We don't need to be believing the same things, right, Sharona?
Right.
I
And
Go ahead.
yeah, and I think one of the things too is, no, not every not even in your own family are people going to agree with you. And, be it if you're a midlife woman or a stepmom, you're going to have people who disagree or not see your point of view. And how do we have conversations instead of shouting matches? And I can still, so yeah, so it's about how do we it's about how do we listen and hear and interpret what other people are saying.
And you're right, Sharon. I mean, and that's why a lot of times we use metaphors. And so I'd love for us to jump into our conversation about metaphors here, where first of all, why do we use metaphors, right? And I think it's important for us to understand that metaphors have a purpose. They enrich our lives. They are very visual, and we use them in order to help connect with one another when we're having a conversation. And we use metaphors, especially in literature, in writing, in poetry, in theater. We use metaphors everywhere so that it makes it for a more beautiful, poetic language and less boring.
And you know what? I think we also do it because we like wordsmithing. We have this language, and if you really think about it, we were um, an oral species. We drew pictures to represent what we were trying to say. And then we created words, were originally symbols and then we put sentences and and there's still a lot of cultures out there that are really more of an oral um, history, whereas as we morphed into what Homo sapiens, and we grew, evolved, we created this language. But really, our language starts from a oral perspective. So we're trying to put on a two-dimensional platform and trying to connect with other people with language. So we try to say, it's like haikus. Haikus are very metaphoric. They are described, we just don't say old age. We will say, and the years are twilighting, or it's like we come up with other things and saying, like death. We don't say they died. We go through this whole, they passed on, they're on another journey, they transfer, they're dead. It's like, but we like to add, what's the word? Uh, bling to our language.
And the thing is that, because of cultural diversity and because we are from different ethnicity and backgrounds, we don't see all the same thing. But if you have like a picture, if you use pictures to describe things or words that everybody understands, then it makes more sense. So I wrote down a list of metaphors that we sometimes we use a lot. And English being my second language, some of the metaphors um, did not always make sense to me because I had never heard of them. And so that's an important thing to understand, that because we use metaphors doesn't mean that everybody understands the meaning of that metaphor. For example, one of the metaphors is time is money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Attaching a monetary value on time, or we're wasting time. Those are another metaphor. Drowning in the sea of grief, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're not physically drowning, but you can have a picture of what that person is going through, like drowning in the sea of grief. A broken heart. Well, we don't have, our heart doesn't physically or literally break, right? It's a metaphor. You're the light of my life, like again, another metaphor. Feeling blue. Well, we're not changing colors, but so those are examples of some of the metaphors. Life is a roller coaster of emotions. Our emotions don't go on a roller coaster, but it shows us some of the ups and downs of what we're feeling. Raining cats and dogs is another one. I'm trying to see that, different kinds of one. Do you have any of metaphors you use, Sharona, or some of that are your favorites?
Well, as you're, this happens. I don't have any that come up on the top of my head, but and they're not and they're not rolling off the tip of my tongue. But however, as I realize as I talk, they just pop up. So,
like a light bulb, right?
Right, the light bulb. Ooh, I got a brilliant idea. And as you were talking, a lot of this too is what they call colloquialisms. Things that are said in the south of the United States are different than what colloquialisms that they use up in the north, or like up in the Northeast, it's up near the Boston area, it's wicked good. It's like, there's, and then down south, it's there, you're as lazy as an old hound dog sleeping on the porch. Where so there's also colloquialisms and metaphors, but I think one of the things is, and out here in California, do we have any that we're all like free spirits and hippies. Well, I am a hippie, punk hippie, but that's okay. Peace, love, and rock and roll. But here, so again, I think it's interesting that certain things that we do say do unpack us in a way. But I always, and but I also feel that metaphors play a part in, again, on how we communicate with each other. Because it's, when you were saying, even though we're not actually drowning in the sea of grief, when you're overwhelmed with grief, that's what it feels like. And we're trying to put pictures around, so that way you not only hear my words, but you actually visually see it. So like when I'm feeling brokenhearted, you can kind of feel, that actually physically goes, I get that. I can understand that. So I think it has, it's useful, but sometimes I think we get too caught up in the languaging of things, and we get, I don't know what the word is, but we get so trying to find the right words that we lose again the connection between another person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes and I get what you're saying, like, we're get caught up in trying to find the right word. And I know sometimes my husband and I get into arguments because of I said a word and then he will pin me on the word I use, and it's like, well, that's not what I meant. But he said that's what you said, and I do the same thing to him. So it's true, we sometimes get caught up on those words and the meaning that we attach to them, not necessarily the meaning that the other person has, but that we attach to them. And then that's when we get caught up in we arguments and conflict and anger and all those emotions that come up in there. And if I'm thinking about stepmoms, a lot of times there's a lot of metaphors attached with being a stepmom. And I'm sure, like, with midlife women, right? There's a lot of metaphors with being a midlife woman. And so, like, if I'm thinking of stepmoms, some of the metaphors are like, it's so hard. It's it's a roller coaster. It's like being on a roller coaster ride. And so it helps to define what you're going through, and I appreciate that, and I think it's a good way to express our emotions and feelings at that moment. And so do you want to comment on this before I go further into my thoughts on this?
Well, one of the things that came up as you were saying that as a midlife woman, we're at that point where we're going, okay, I live this much, I don't have much time, but we get things like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You can't, what's another? Oh, I just lost it. Oh, my brain left my brain left and went on vacation, and I don't know if it's coming back. Oh, I know that I created one when I was when going through all that physical change. So I had private Hawaiian moments and then private Alaskan moments. So those are some things that my own personal metaphors. But people, and here's the thing: when I say that to midlife women, and or people going through those physical changes, when I say private Hawaii, they get it. It's like, oh my, it's that. And then, of course, many people don't have the private Alaskan moments, but those are things that and then we think, but then the other metaphor is getting older is not for the weak-hearted. So we have to, there are things that are around midlife women. And I think personally we can create our own metaphors that we can use to help, empower us, and instead of making it detrimental to our well-being. And so that's something I just came up with.
Yeah, and you're right. Depending on the metaphors we use, they can uplift us or keep us stuck. And, some metaphors we use often exaggerate the circumstance we're in, and to the point where we want to make sure people get it. Mm-hmm. Right? So a lot of times there's a sense of exaggeration to what's going on, to the point where you have to ask yourself, is this use of metaphor actually helping or keeping us stuck, especially if we're thinking of negative metaphors or metaphors that are around difficulty, challenges, struggles. If we use those metaphors on a constant base or as a way of describing our life as a whole, that can keep us stuck in where we are at this moment.
One of the things that a metaphor that just popped up as you were talking, popped up, was the money is evil, and or money is dirty or whatever, but there's that whole thing, money is evil, or
Corrupt and
another one is no, maybe that's not a metaphor. No, never mind. That was just something else. But if that's a metaphor that you believe in deeply, it can cause some trouble. Money isn't evil. Money is nothing. Money is like a hammer. It's just a tool. It's an exchange system. That's like saying sheep are evil. Now there are some nasty sheep out there, but they're not evil. Sheep on the whole aren't evil. So, but that's a metaphor that that has been I've heard a lot in my and then I think there's something as an artist or a creative, we are told, we don't want to sell our art or sell our souls to the devil if we're going to ask for money. And a lot of times women, I know for midlife women, that we sometimes feel like we're a sellout if we ask for what we think is what we're valued at. And we always devalue what we put out into the world. So those are just some things those kind of things can be detrimental. If that is something, you're not using it as a metaphor, but as a belief system. I think that's what we need to look at, the difference between what a metaphor is and is it an ingrained belief system to our life experience.
Yeah, and as you were sharing, I was reminded that stepmoms often use the term second best or second class, which is, that metaphor is showing you as not as good as. And so if you use that metaphor, and as you said, if you use it as a belief system, then your behavior starts to match those thoughts. And so that's where I want to come to, is that sometimes some of the metaphors we use in, like, money is evil or your time is money, like, for me growing up, the concept of time is money and don't waste time ingrained in me that taking a nap in the middle of the day was a bad thing.
Yeah.
And I know you and I have talked about this, and I'm not ready to take a nap. And maybe because, like, for me, maybe that's one of the reasons why I don't take a nap even when I'm tired. I don't know. And maybe that's something we can go into one day about taking a nap in the afternoon. But, the concept of time is money or you're wasting time, for some people, it may drive them into overproduction, into exhaustion, right? Because then that metaphor becomes part of their belief system. And then if it's part of their belief system, there's no place to question, does it make sense or not? If you're thinking of yourself as a stepmom and think yourself as second best or as second, like in second place or whatever, then you don't feel that you should be an equal to your partner. I don't believe we should be above or below, but equal. And that's part of my philosophy when it comes to being a spouse, a partner in a relationship, is being equal. Depending on the choice of words, the metaphor you embrace, it can impact you. Now, it doesn't mean you have to stay there. You can question this, right?
Yeah, and I think one of the things too is there's a lot of, as you're talking there, there was this thing, keeping your nose to the grindstone, and you know, um and I know for me, growing up, there was this whole thing about you had to fill every moment with doing something. You could not be just, except
Be lazy,
be
right?
lazy, not to be lazy. And the other one that came to me, and I'm not sure if I'm wording it right, but nice girls don't do that,
Oh, yeah.
right? Right. Nice girls don't do that. And I kept going, well, what does it mean to be nice? And years ago, I keep forgetting this, but they came up with an acronym that made nice not so nice. But it was like, why, there's this thing about, again, not rocking the boat when we're in a relationship or in a family, or we're afraid to say what we're feeling in the moment or what we're needing because we don't want to rock the boat. And so I like the fact that we need to question it. And that's with anything in life. As a midlife woman, we have put time on this planet. We've seen a lot, we experiencing a lot, and there's a point in your life that you say, well, this is, and you go, okay, is this working for me or not? Is this increasing my confidence, or is it making me smaller? Is it again, these are all my, am I getting what I need? Am I delegating what I have to? Can I create space for myself? And I think one of the things is that as women, we are trained to not take up a lot of space, right? When a man walks into the room, he will cover that whole room. Most women, when we go into the room, we find a little corner and we get, because
Stay small,
stay
right?
small, right? Because nice girls don't take up space. Nice girls don't bring attention to themselves. Nice girls do blah, so the question is, do you want to be a nice girl, or do you want to be an empowered woman wherever you are? And you have a right as a woman to take your space, to set those boundaries. And here's a metaphor: setting boundaries. Well, we're not actually having little fences built around us. Of course, that would be a good, or maybe crime tape. Just put crime tape, police tape. Can't go back. But that's what we got to do sometimes. And those are metaphor. So I think it's coming down to questioning, poking it, saying, is this my truth in this moment?
Yeah. And what you just said, in this moment, right? And I think we need to verify that at this point in time, this is how I'm feeling. And ask yourself, do I want to stay in this metaphor that I created myself? Or do I want to move forward and create another metaphor, such as, my life is blooming, or I'm things are getting up, and I'm getting up in this world, right? So there's positive and I know you don't like the term positive and negative, but the impact it has on us, it definitely makes a difference in how we energetically, how we move through the world. And as much as we want to stay positive, and I know you and I talked about it, just having positive thoughts isn't enough to move us out of a situation in our life. I mean, as you can have all the positive thoughts in the world you want, if you're not doing anything about it, you're not going anywhere.
And I think that's a good point, that there was this whole movement about positive thinking, and then it became mindfulness and blah blah blah. And I think that just puts way too much pressure on us, because we're going to have a bazillion thoughts in our mind all the time. And, staying in the moment, we're being present fully, always in the moment and eating your food very, okay. Once in a while as an exercise, it's fine. But to be real, we're human beings and we're going to have the monkey brain going. So sometimes it's just quieting the monkey brain down. So and I think it's not just because, I've been experimenting with positive thinking and negative thinking my whole life. And you know what? Thoughts aren't that powerful unless you are take no action or take an action. Thoughts are not that powerful. I, you know, I have been visualizing things my whole life and they have never come in the way that I thought they would come because I don't have that much. I am not a superhero. My mind is not that powerful. However, what I can do is if I want to go to create something or go towards something, I have to take action steps to make it happen. I also have to honor, this is just something, whatever emotion that I'm dealing with, I have to express that the best way in the best ability that I can in the moment. So if that means taking a pillow and punching the crap out of it because I'm really pissed off, then I'm going to do that. But I'm actually getting my whole being involved. So it's not just the mind, it's not just the heart, but it's the gut, it's the kinesthetic movement of stuff. And I think one of the things is we get lost in this whole mindset thing because we think we can think our way out of situations. We can come up with ideas, but we have to have action behind those ideas. And we need to have support behind those ideas. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and somewhat it does. And so let me put my 2 cents in there where, the thoughts that we entertain in our head can definitely, in my opinion, impact, where we're going to go. So if I decide I want to be sad and to stay in my sadness, which I've done in the last 2 weeks before, where I sat there and I wallowed in my anger and my sadness. And in my head, I kept going through my head like a tape recorder over and over and over that same scene over and over. And the more I was going over that scene, the deeper I was getting into that sadness. I was like a big black hole swallowing me up. And that's another metaphor, but I actually felt like this hole swallowing me up. And so in order for me, and we all think differently and we have different perspectives on this. So becoming aware that I was being swallowed up by this big black hole, I decided to, let's see if I changed my thought pattern and saw someone giving me their hand and lifting me up. Well, it helps in that, it's not the only thing. I mean, it's the beginning. And as you said, Sharona, we need to put some actions behind those thoughts. But I also think that, there's this philosophy about, is it nature or is it nurture? Is it our actions that inspire our thoughts, or is it our thoughts that inspire actions? And so it's like the chicken and the egg. Which one came first? Do we know? No, we don't. And I think that for each of us, we are all different in how we interact. For some people who are more visual or more mind oriented, for them it may be that, okay, I need to think it in order to move forward. And for others it may be, I need to move forward before I can think it. So there's different approaches. So for me, just the idea of thinking, okay, let me see a hand reaching out and helping me, it's the beginning of wanting to push me forward. it's not the only thing. I need to get my butt out of my chair and get those legs moving in order to make those changes, because just thinking my way out isn't enough. But I also know that if I don't think about possibilities and alternatives and a different way of approaching a solution, I tend to stay stuck in where I was before.
And that's, thank you for that, because sometimes and because we all are unique, and we are going to find what works for us. So before we came on today, you asked me how I was doing, and I said I had some really horrible dreams, and I woke up feeling very hopeless. I'm going to be honest with that. So for me, what happens if I just sit there and imagine whatever, something coming up, and doesn't do shit for me. I'm just going to be. But what I have learned, and this is where I go to, is I have to get out of my head, get into my body. Get into my body. Because for me, the mind is just giving me data and regurgitating data. And so where I go is I bypass the heart because I'm feeling hopeless. So the heart is going to just be sad. So I go into my belly. I find that if I go into my belly and ground myself in the body, it gets me out of the head, and it just tells me, just show up and just be hopeless anyway. That's where if I feel overwhelmed with emotion, what I do is, or what I be with that emotion and allow it to be, but I show up with that emotion or that feeling. And I think that came over life experiencing, learning that trying to not feel that, and yes, there are times when I can get stuck and wallow in deep sadness. And however, if I try to shorten it, you know, so so the metaphor, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, drives me crazy. I remember years ago, I was in this horrific car accident, and wasn't my fault. I think I got a concussion. I don't know. I know that I had a whiplash of some kind. My body was in trauma. I forgot how to put words together. I forgot. I remember going into my rental car a few days later, and I forgot how to start a car. So information wasn't all in my head. And I was in post post traumatic stress, but I didn't know that existed. And I can remember, just and it took me months to move through allowing the body to heal. And I can remember being sad and being confused and being angry and being in pain. And of course, because I had to pull up my boots pull up my boots by the bootstraps, I went right back to work, which was a mistake. And I can remember the guys at work, because I was, crying, and all this, said, when are you going to get back to normal? And that was when I began to realize that I had to go through that whole process. I couldn't shortcut it. I couldn't make it different. I had to do that process. And it gave me the courage from that moment on to show up however I was feeling. So feeling hopeless, feeling sad, feeling whatever, but showing up is taking action. When you sit, in the isolation and you're just wallowing, yes. And for some of us, we have to imagine a hand coming out. For some of us, we have to feel our heart. Some of us are going to write. Some of us are going to call. As women, we like to call and have conversations about it. But again, we have to go from inside outward. We have to show up as we are, the best of our ability in that moment. And to be okay that we're vulnerable and we're not perfect.
We're not trying to be something we're not, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And and I think this is a great example to show how we're all different and how we deal with um, our life challenges, and that we're not all the same. What works for one person may not work for another. What works for a midlife may not work for another midlife woman. What works for one stepmom may not work for another stepmom. No, I think it's really important to understand what makes us work, what is our unique gifts and talents, and what are unique challenges that we need to move forward on, and not necessarily try to be like everybody else.
Right, because I think we are all unique. We're not all special. We're just all unique because of our uh, point of view, our life experience, our the way we handle life, the way life comes at us. Um, and so, yes, I think I feel my senses that it's like I have insomnia. So, I have people telling me to try melatonin. I've tried everything. I've tried everything. What melatonin might work for you, but it doesn't work for me. So I view life as a mad scientist. You got to experiment. That's my point of view. I have to experiment to find what works for me. To find if I'm a stepmom, I have to find how do I come into this new village, this new tribe, and how do we find a way to dance together? Because it's a new dance, right? It's not the waltz anymore. It's now the jive. It's a whole new rhythm. Um, Staying with midlife women. If I lost a job or if my relationship changed and I'm trying to do this whole dating thing as a midlife woman, it's a whole new dance. It's not like when I was in my teens and my 20s. Yeah. So that's the thing we need to find is that rhythm, that dance of how do we interact with these new beings.
Exactly.
And life is a dance. There you go. A lovely metaphor. Or
What a
life is a musical. I think life should be a musical. Where is the choreographed songs? Let's do it.
and a musical always has some ups and downs,
Yeah.
right? Some roller coaster moments, it's some nice, beautiful romance, and then some drama to go with it, right? So I think this is a great metaphor to use to wrap up our show for today, our episode for today. And I really love these conversations because one, we never know what comes up. We never script our shows, but we make sure that we share our thoughts and beliefs and our expertise in our topics. So I'd love for you, Sharona, to share how can midlife women get a hold of you if they want to talk more about dancing with change in their midlife.
Thanks, Claudette. And before I do that, I just want to say, you know what? This is our conversations is an improv dance because we don't script any of this. I know you said that, but so in an improv dance, you not only have to be listening, but you can't be scripting what you're going to say, right? You have to actually be active listening.
Yeah.
So, and I appreciate that. That it's always so juicy, um, and full of flair, flair and juice. Um, so, if you're a midlife woman and you are having challenges with the dance of change, transformation, and transition, and you want to really thrive wholeheartedly in body, mind, and spirit, you can reach me at Sharona at midlifewomendancingwithchange.com. You can also, my website, of course, is midlifewomendancingwithchange.com. And you can also find me with the hashtag Midlife Women Dancing with Change, and that hashtag emotional impact. Because one of the things I do a lot of is dealing with the emotion, not just the physical, but the emotional impact of change and transformation and transition in midlife. I also, if you go to either my website or my Facebook page or any of my social media, I also have a wonderful free mini e-seminar, Thriving in the Midst of Midlife Change. And I'm also, so, it's a free little 6-module to help give you tips and suggestions of how to navigate through midlife. So that's how you can get a hold of me. How about you, Claudette? If there's a stepmom who's feeling that her life is being controlled by metaphors, how do they get a hold of you and take it away?
Thank you, Sharona. So yes, so if you're a midlife, no, well, yeah, you could be a midlife stepmom, right? And then you could see Sharona for your midlife issues and me for your stepmom. So if you're a stepmom and you're, as Sharona said, you're in the midst of a whole bunch of metaphors and you're wondering how can I deal with all of those, you can reach me at Claudette at stepmomcoach.com. My website is stepmomcoach.com, and you can use the hashtag stepmomcoach. And another hashtag you can use is stepmomwisdom. And I love working with stepmoms in coming up with some strategies and tools and ideas that will help you deal with your specific issues or challenges you have. I also have some e-courses that I have on my page. So if you go under products, you will see there's a 5 different e-courses that are available that you can do at your leisure. Once you're registered in the e-course, you have the e-courses. They're yours for forever. And anytime you are looking for support or help, you can also sign up for my weekly Stepmom Wisdom Tips, where I give a lot of great information and strategies to help you along the way. So this wraps up our episode for this week on Conversation That Matters Most, where we talked about metaphors and the impact it has on our life. And I invite you to peruse our other episodes that we've talked about. We've been doing this for a year now. And so please peruse our other episodes, comment below here, share, and subscribe to our channel. There's a lot of content that we share, and they're all, hopefully you find them useful.
Yeah, and I just want to say, we love hearing from you, and if you have any metaphors that you have been using for most of your life, put them in the comments below. We like to hear, because maybe you have a metaphor we never heard of. So, just share that. So
yeah, that would be great. All right, everyone. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you, and hope to see you on our next episode of Conversation That Matter Most.
Bye, everybody. Groove on, have fun, and thrive.
Bye.